Good morning.
Hello.
Friday morning.
It is Friday morning.
And mics are on, lights are on, cameras on, feed is on. We are in good shape.
We're doing. Here we
Good
are.
morning, professional photographers of Idaho and beyond. I am Bob Ryder.
I'm Larry Fry.
And we are part of your PPI board of directors.
Yeah, and happy to be there.
Yeah, and you're the treasurer.
Yep.
And I'm the secretary.
Yeah, and I was going to say you're not.
And I'm not. Right? Well, that's why I was saying that. Right?
Yeah,
It's just, I was so tongue-tied the other day with Jen. I'm like, and I'm the treasurer. I'm like, wait, I'm not the treasurer.
Well,
Right? Anyway, so it's Friday morning.
I forgot about that. That's fun. That was fun.
What's your photography week been like?
Photography week has been just planning for the future for me. It hasn't been like, I haven't been busy with clients at all, but I just have sat down and I actually did a little Venn diagram on what it's going to look like. You know,
that's cool. So this is that time of year. I'm going to drop into the next slide, but I won't show it yet. This is that time of year.
Yeah.
And this is one of those episodes.
Well, we've done this where we have, and I've said it, and you've said it too. I mean, we all, or both of us at least, I have a 5-year plan. You have a X-year plan, and every year I redo the 5-year plan every year, so that it's not. I don't ever have a 4-year plan.
I'm not certain that I'm going to have time to do that this season. This is our first season ever in this business that I'm literally booked the Monday coming out of New Year's weekend. Like New Year's Day is Saturday, and I'm booked Monday.
Yeah, and for me, I have to do one because I'm changing everything.
Yes,
so
you are.
This is not a. So yeah, I mean, you can run with your whatever your plan is. If you got a 7-year plan and you're into year 2, you know, you don't have to do it. I mean, you don't have to do it now. This is just the convenient time to do it usually.
Well, this is normally the time where I'm licking my wounds a little bit from the year, and we're looking forward. We're projecting. We're doing sales projections. We're doing client projections.
You're just licking your wounds. I'm getting stitches. So.
Excellent. Well, you know what? I discovered something. So this is our chat window over here that they can't see.
I see.
But I can do this. And, well, that didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be able to see who's here. I guess that's not going to work. So here we are. We've got the chat running today.
Yep.
And if you're on right now, and I know you are because I can see the numbers, I just can't see who those people are.
Yeah, let us know who you are.
Pop it in the chat and let us know you're here. Today's episode, and we're going to get to announcements here in a second, but I just want to drop a primer for today's episode. And it's actually, I could just drop over to MP2 here and swing that in here. We're going to talk drive error today. And if you've ever seen this pop up, you know, maybe it's a triangle and it's got an exclamation point in it.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a blank screen.
Or maybe it's the blank screen, or it's a lot of things, right?
Yep.
But the one thing that it is it's absolutely horrible.
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying. Actually, that's even better.
Yeah.
It is horrifying to not be able to access your data. And we're creatives. You know what? I was going to bring some film canisters out here this morning. That was our data back in the 80s and 90s. And
it was.
Up to the early 2000s.
Yep.
That was our data. I still have all that data.
Yeah,
in a file cabinet, in sleeves, you know, acid-free and all that stuff.
Yep.
I still have all that.
Yep.
But today our data looks a lot different, and it's super, super important. But I'm going to roll on with a couple of announcements while you're doing what are we doing?
I'm just getting ready for a little later on down the road here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You're doing something.
He's
doing a thing. All right. So I'm going to let him do that. We've got Michael Collins on this morning. My wife is watching.
Hi, Michael.
And LaQuita's here. That's a good set. Thanks for commenting in the chat right there. And LaQuita says good morning. Michael says howdy. My wife says good morning. We've got, you know what? I want a different slide. Let's do this one.
All right.
Because, you know,
yeah,
me and food, right? I like food a lot.
Go hand in hand.
So, right.
Yeah.
So today is our monthly PPI luncheon. This is kind of a lunch and greet. There's no fee. You don't have to be a member. It is no host, so come and buy your own dang lunch.
Right.
And sit down with us and just have a gab, have some conversation. I'm gonna pop.
Idaho Pizza Company on Fairview, right across from what that is, Express Cafe.
Yeah.
And a great salad lunch or salad pizza buffet thing.
Their salad bar is excellent.
It's excellent.
They have a pizza bar where there's just pizzas out, and you can you pay for your food. I think it's $6 or $8, and you go through the chow line and get whatever kind of pizzas that you want. And they're always dropping new ones on there, so you can eat those and go back. And anyway, it kind of appeals to me. Me and pizza, we get along. I'm like, hi, pizza, and it's like, hi, Bob. We're on a first name basis. It's cool. The girls are talking over here. That's pretty cool. Laquita was here this last week. I shared, it's just a tiny little piece of equipment with her that I had developed. I didn't need it anymore, and I thought she could use it. So she was here, and we talked about that a little bit.
Good.
We've also got another announcement coming up. I've got a pinched nerve in my neck. That's why I'm all like, trying to move. I'm really stiff.
He is kind of stiff.
Thanks for that. All right. This is your save the date for April the 7th through the 10th coming up.
More to that maybe coming.
Oh, man.
We had I'll just real fast. We did have a board meeting yesterday, and a ton of ideas. A lot. And
I have something to contribute to that, and I wasn't at the meeting because I was working.
Yeah. So we have a ton plus one idea at least, maybe even two.
A ton plus one.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
But it's this will be awesome. It's
so hard to not talk about it.
Yeah. We're kind of coming out of the, last year we had a pretty much an all virtual conference. There was a couple of
we had local instructors, local.
And then we had, an image competition that was virtual.
Digital. Yep.
So, we're going to do a hybrid approach this year. Some of it will be virtual, and some of it will be in person. And I believe all of it will be recorded. But that's the only thing I'm going to say about that for right now. And we do have a couple surprises. But the dates you need to key on
there we go. It's
April
back.
7th through the 10th.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have those dates locked out. And again, might be a little surprise coming up in the next week or so.
Cool.
So yeah.
So there's another thing I want to talk about, and I think this did make the announcements, and I don't have a slide for it, but that's our Christmas parties.
Yeah, pretty excited about those too. So
why don't I have a slide for the Christmas parties?
Why don't you?
Because the graphic went out. I overlooked that, I think. I'll have to get with Jennifer. Jennifer makes a lot of our graphics here. It is December 29th and 30th.
And
the 29th is
Meridian.
Here in Meridian at Jakers.
Yep.
On Eagle Road.
30th is in Pocatello at Jakers.
At Jakers.
So,
and this is for our members.
Members only.
And their guests.
And go on the website, look for events, and you can pick East or West. That's how they're designated. You can sign up, and you can sign up for your significant other also. And there are definitely some rules there. We will be giving you the member $20 toward their meal.
Yep.
The guest will have to be, of course, on their own. And then I'm looking forward to this a lot. There's some more stuff in there I can't talk about either. But this is the first time we've attempted one of these. We declined.
This is our holiday party.
It's a holiday party. We couldn't. The dates were kind of like, when are we going to have it? Should we have it after New Year's? That was a wrangle, and we decided that week between the two would be good.
Because I'm like sprinting to start my year. I'm really excited about it.
A good start to the new year will be our holiday party. It's kind of a year end and a kickoff all at the same time.
Yeah, I love that concept, man. And we could spend a little bit more time. And I think we haven't. You and I haven't talked next week's episode. No. But it's probably going to be the year-end, year start, things that you can do to help your business launch into the new year, things that you can do to help your business wrap up from this year. And we'll probably talk about, finding some inspiration going into this next period.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what next week looks a lot alike.
So and we're kind of doing our year-end wrap-up, startup business right now in the next few episodes.
This has become an annual thing.
Yep.
So I'm gonna, I guess, let's see, let me look at these. I think we've got it all. Yeah, your luncheon is today. Excellent stuff. So we'll come back to that one later. So I'm gonna put that up now, in there, and we'll use that later. So our episode today is about data integrity It's about having a data management plan in place. And I guess I should just preface this with, this can be a pretty nerdy conversation.
It's going to be very nerdy. But don't let it scare you.
But this is, I'm going to do the punch in. You ready?
Yeah.
Burp. This is the most important thing you can do for your business as it pertains to your assets, because your data as a photographer, your data is everything. If you don't have a plan to protect your client work, you're in trouble.
And there's multiple plans, so we're going to lay out some of the best possible scenarios.
We're going to lay out a handful of things, and the coolest thing about this is that the cost of entry for data protection is so low. It's at its lowest point that it's ever been.
Right.
So let's start with the concept of the 3-2-1.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So 3-2-1 is a popular way to embody data integrity. So when I talk about data integrity, I'm going to say I take a picture with my camera, my digital camera. That file has to live. It has to exist somewhere, and it has to be safe from bad SD card.
It has to be safe from any damage.
You put a card in your camera, and you take the card out of your camera, and you do that over and over and over, and that's wear and tear on that card. Even to the point that, once in a while you should think about replacing your cards.
Oh.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, so, this isn't like film. You use it, it's spent. This is something that your SD cards or your CF Express, that's what I'm in now is CF Express with the R5. That's an expensive son of a gun.
So we should talk a little bit about, and you just hit on it just briefly. You said, putting that card in and out is wear and tear.
Yeah.
So there's wear and tear on the camera also.
There's
right?
wear and tear on the camera.
There's the card. So just to kind of clean up an expectation here, a lot of people think, well, it's a card, it's solid state, right? I mean, that's what a card is. It's solid state memory.
Yep. Which means that it doesn't have a spinning, turning table platter mechanism like these old hard drives do.
But there are a limited number of read writes on what would commonly called an SSD or a card or whatever you call it.
There's a life cycle.
There's a life cycle. Now, the manufacturers have built in a buffer for that, and the life cycle for those is huge. It's great.
Yeah.
However, it's not infinite.
So the good news is, if you started with a 6 megapixel camera and a 2 megabyte card,
right,
that card is obsolete now, and you've moved to something else. I have 8 and 16 and 32 and 64.
We all have those. They're in a drawer somewhere.
I've got stacks of them, right?
Yeah.
But all those small ones are useless to me. I'm running a 45 megapixel camera, right?
Right.
So the good news is the technology tends to outmode your technologies,
cards.
Cards as you go along. So, but this starts. So okay, snap the picture. Boom. We've made a capture. It's in my card.
Yep.
I'm going to take that card to my computer. I'm going to import that file. I now have 2 copies of that.
Correct.
I have my original on the card, or in my case, 2 cards in my camera, and now I have another one on my computer.
Do you shoot RAW and JPEG on both?
I shoot RAW only.
On both? On
both.
Okay. So a lot of people have 2 cards. The common thing to do is RAW on one, JPEG on the other, especially if you had it back. This is back a while because new stuff, right? Especially when you have a CF card and an SD card, as a general rule, shoot the RAW on the CF, shoot the JPEG on the SD. You get home, you have to download both of them because you kind of want those JPEG files as another backup, even though you're not shooting it that way. Anyway, continue.
So I'm going to say I said RAW only, but there is an occasion where I am running JPEGs and then I am shooting both to both. Okay. I don't want my good files on one card and my junky files on another card, because if my good card craps,
you got no files.
Then I just have my lower quality files. Yeah. So honestly, I've invested in bigger cards so that I can just shoot what I want to shoot.
Well, and then like you said, technology outpaces that. So CF cards are like on the out, SD cards are on the out, CF Express is on the way in, Micro is on the way in, and you literally, as you progress through your photographic journey and your camera bodies and the tools that you have, you're going to have to replace those anyhow. So, but a good rule of thumb, if your card, I always do mine almost every year, but if your card is over 2 years old, you probably ought to think about replacing it.
So there's an interesting thing with that, and I agree with you. I don't do it every year. Let's back up another one. If you're hard on your equipment, buy a new one every year.
Yeah.
I treat my equipment with kid gloves. My equipment's all in really good condition, and that helps with resale value. It helps knowing that I don't have a failure when I least need one. But just because you've bought a new card doesn't mean you throw the other card away. That can be a good backup.
It's a good backup, yeah.
There are occasions when I'll second shoot for another photographer, and I'll hand them my card when I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going to hand them my CF Express Type B card.
That's a good time to. That's
$400.
That's a good time to use those 8 megabyte.
Yeah, that's when I'm using one of my older cards, and I can hand that off. And if I don't get it back, whatever.
No biggie. Yeah.
Right. All right. So it starts at the camera, right? So 1 or 2 cards in your camera, like my EOS R that we're using today for the video, 1 card slot. My R5 is 2 card slots, and that's my preference when I'm doing client work. And most of my client work we shoot tethered as well. So we're literally making 3 copies with every capture, and that's the 3 part of the 3-2-1, 3 local copies. So before I erase my cards for reuse, it's gone into the computer and then off to my RAID array, if you will. And we're going to talk about some of these modalities, some of these different types of backups. But I'm always in that 3 level with a local copy.
And the third level, he imports his stuff through Lightroom, right? So there's a Lightroom catalog, which will keep your image also. So basically, that's the 3 copies that you use.
So it's 2 cards and my laptop, and then it goes to my desktop before I start eliminating any of my copies along the way. And then, so one of the other things that I've done is I use big cards so that I seldom have to erase cards. I can almost always count on coming back to my card if something happens down the line.
Right.
And I will fill a card and swap that out for one that was used months ago and erase that one and move along. And I still have that card with a lot of data for a few months, you know. So it's just that in the back of my mind, it's that always there. I probably have the original on a card for a few months anyway.
Yeah, and same thing with me. I don't erase my cards for a few months. And my card wallet is actually my file system. So, you know, the ones I've shot and are full go in the back of my card wallet, and I use the ones out of the front. And as I use the ones, I just keep moving them up.
Yep.
So
I do the same thing. My card wallet, I actually turn my cards around that are full.
Yeah, that works.
And then I use through the ones that are, and then when those come back, and that's just the very basics of starting your data integrity plan, is having a plan to manage your cards. If you have just 1 card, you have to get another card.
Yeah, we'll talk about the devices in a minute, but yeah, you need to get another card, and you need to.
They're the weakest link in your system, typically.
Yeah, and you got to get
in and out, in and out.
And you got to get those images off of there.
Yep.
Just get them off somehow.
So I'm going to say this: I've worked with a handful of photographers that plug their camera in with a USB into their computer, and they can't understand why it takes hours to cull.
Yeah.
Because they're culling from the camera first. The problem with that is you have the risk of damaging the data on the card because you're working off of the camera. Take that card, import those pictures onto a hard drive or a portable drive, or
take the card out and put it in a good card reader and get them off there. And then
import those into your system and cull from there.
And then the second thing is, when you do get ready to dump that card or to format it, most people format it, do it in camera.
In camera.
Do not format your card. You can, and it's supposed to work.
Most manufacturers specify formatting in camera.
But if you
want their format.
If you format it in camera, you won't have any problems.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you
might have problems.
And you just go through, let's just say that you got 2 cards that are ready to be recycled, and you're going out to a shoot, and I got to dump my cards. You jam in your in your card reader, hit the format button on your computer.
I just did that. Look at that. I put us in us. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, that's nice.
I was trying to put that over there, but
Anyway, and then you got your chute. You pull your card out, plop it in the camera, and there's a card reader, and that's just a huge no-no. So make sure that you format your cards in camera. So
trying something. Yeah. So that's at the camera, right?
Yeah.
So then, as we move on into your computer, if you're using a laptop, chances are you're using some kind of a solid state drive. If you have a modern laptop, whether it's actually a
NVRAM or whatever it is, yeah.
Lots of different modalities for that too. A solid state drive. I've got one in here somewhere. I've got a bunch of toys here that I want to share with you as we go along today. So this is a $20 enclosure that I put a solid state drive in.
Mm-hmm.
And these are coming way down in price and getting larger in capacity. But the reality is, if this is just a transfer function for me, then I don't really need to worry too much about giant capacity, because this is just something that I use as a go-between. But this just drops into this $20 enclosure,
and that's where I differ from you.
Okay.
I use that and my RAID array, but I keep those like almost indefinitely until they wear out, literally.
Okay.
So
well.
And the reason why, and why do I do that? I do that because they're small, they're lightweight.
I don't do that with the SSDs because they're pricey.
No, they're not. They're not near as bad as they were.
That's true.
Yeah.
I was using these for years.
Yeah, and these are spinny drives. These are these are laptop drives inside these. This is the same. It's the same type of case as this. It's got an IDE interface in it, and there's a laptop drive in there. So anyway,
these are just portable hard drives.
Yeah, and just like he hold it up so you can see the thing on the outside. That's exactly.
So this says 2013 file, 14.
Yeah. And I usually put
Nanapics. Nanapics are on here. Nana has been gone now for a few years.
See,
she was in her 90s.
I put names on mine too.
Okay.
Because it's easier for me. If somebody asks me, I'm horrible at dates. But if somebody says, when did you shoot the Cummins wedding? Could have been 2010.
That's what metadata is for, folks.
So if I don't have that, though, I can easily look at the drive, and it'll say the year, and it'll say a name or two on there. So anyway, that's my
So they
system.
make these $20 enclosures for these. And this is what you refer to as a spinny thing.
Yep.
This is just an interior hard drive, an internal hard drive for presumably a desktop system. And I'm going to say this. I buy 4 terabyte drives, just like this. This is a 2. I buy 4 and 6 terabyte drives for like 60 to 80 bucks from Amazon Renewed. They come out of data centers, they get their check, and the ones I've been buying have a 3-year warranty. So 60 bucks for a 4 terabyte drive, and you can slide it into an enclosure, $20 enclosure, and you've got a reliable method for storing data or backing data. These are cheap.
They also make a little desktop unit that sits on your desk. Fancy that. And you can actually literally slide those drives into a slot and then just turn it on. And that's awesome way to get a ton, except for technology's catching up. So these drives at 4 terabytes used to be thebomb.com.
Right.
And now it's an SSD that's that size, that's 4 terabyte.
Right. And you can buy these in this smaller 3.5-inch form factor, even the size in between the two of these.
Heck, your SD cards are going up.
But for 60 bucks.
Yeah.
Right? A 4 terabyte drive. And so I'm here to say this. If you need 2 terabyte drives, these are fine, full of data, but I could format them and you could have them if you need drives.
Oh, I thought you were selling something on the
No,
air.
I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it, but I've had to necessarily move up to larger drives.
Here's a
I'm going to drop
Here's a
these
pro
and it's gonna
tip.
go crash.
How do I erase all my stuff on a drive that I want to sell or maybe just get rid of, like one of these, because I bought one of those. Your information is probably pretty sensitive, and you don't realize it. So there's a program out there called D-Ban. D as in David, B-A-N, and you just download that to your old computer. You hook one of these drives up as an auxiliary drive. Now, be careful when you go into D-band. It's going to say, which drive do you want to erase?
That's terrifying, by the way.
Don't erase your C drive. But
That's
anyway,
terrifying.
That
moment where you have to commit to erasing the drive, and you're like,
D-band will overwrite your drive about, I think it's 7 times, and it's pretty much, you can't get any information.
If you're moving devices down the line and you don't trust the people you're going to,
and it takes a long time, so you don't expect this D-band to work in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a 1 or 2 terabyte drive, you're probably looking at about 10, 11 hours.
Okay.
So yeah.
I haven't gone to that length, but these don't hold for me. So I'm actually going to get to the NAS concept here in a minute.
Yeah.
The desktop attached and the network attached. These just hold pictures for me. They don't ever have personal data or financial data or anything like that for me.
No, but the difficulty there is the metadata might be interesting to other people with the metadata on the picture and correlating. There's a bunch of bad guys out there. Just beware. So I can't say I've never done it, but I prefer to D-band my stuff. As soon as you replace your thing, whatever you're doing, and you have to replace a drive, I just stick it in, and I know I'm not going to need it anymore, ever, ever, ever. I just stick it into a slot and D-band it, and
that's a great idea.
And then they're done, and you don't have to worry about it.
Can you do those for me?
Sure.
Take them with you?
Yeah.
Great. Just zap them, and then I'm going to give them to whoever needs a 2 terabyte drive. They can buy a $20 enclosure and get a free hard drive out of it.
It takes several hours. I don't just zap them.
But well, you can press zap and go eat.
I could go press. Yeah, I can
have some whiskey or whatever.
Yeah. I can. My deal for that's out in the garage. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So, enough chit chat.
Yeah. That's never enough chit chat. That's just who we are. So listen, and I wish I could do like a raise of hands. If you are working off a laptop computer or a desktop computer and you bring your images in and you work on them there, and they never go anywhere else to be protected.
Ooh.
So the catalyst for this conversation, besides this, is something that we talk about each year at this time, because this is a great time. I'm going to punch it again. Ready?
Yeah.
This is a great time of year to back up your data if you're not already backing up your data. This is the time to do that.
And if you go back to the start of our conversation and we're talking about what we're going to do next year or the year after that or whatever, it's also a great time to make absolutely sure that whatever device you are using for backups is completely up to date and not full. And you can kind of extrapolate like, oh, I did, I don't know, I'm going to pull a number out of my hat. I did 110 shoots last year and I used 3 terabytes of data or whatever it was. And if you have a 4 terabyte drive,
great.
Well, you can
drive health is another thing that we need to talk about.
Well, drive health and just the projection. You need to look forward a bit, and then also while you're looking forward, how old is that drive that I've got it on?
So I say we, as in my wife and I. She understands the principle because we talk about it. I try not to exceed 60% capacity on my storage system.
Oh, I feel that.
It's just a thing.
Yeah. I feel don't worry about it.
I've gone as high as, situationally,
don't go over.
Situationally speaking, if I pull in a tremendous amount of work all of a sudden, I don't want to have to deal with
stopping
work and dealing with that. So this is something that I do annually. Like you said, I do use Lightroom, and one of the things that I love about Lightroom is I can click into my master folder for the year, and I can look at all of my metadata for the year. I can see what camera bodies I've used, what lenses I've used, and how many images I've taken. That information is useful. A few years ago, I was running a 5D2 and a 5D3 and a 5D4. I had the trio of bodies, and at year end, I discovered I'd only done about 82 frames on that 5D2. Gone. Sold it. Okay, I don't need that piece of equipment if I'm not using it. I sold it and turned it into something else.
Yep.
So there's a lot of really good data that you can extrapolate from the work that you've done over the course of a period of time, and that's useful to me. When I first started as a professional taking money, Laquita says I have an external hard drive that my computer won't recognize when my other external is on the computer at the same time. Help. I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Or Larry could.
Yeah, we can help you.
I'll throw you under the bus. So that's the kind of thing, Laquita, that folks will just live with, literally until the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And you're like, crap, I really needed that working. So I was starting to say the catalyst for this episode was that in a 1 month period, in 4 weeks, I had 3 photographers call me or text me or message me or whatever. Help, I've lost my drive. I've lost my data. What can I do? Folks, that is, as you said, horrifying.
Yep.
When what you expect to work doesn't work. And where that really comes into play, okay, one, if you're in that workflow, you have to disrupt your workflow to fix something. But even worse, I constantly, maybe not constantly, I regularly am retrieving data for a client from some time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's a serious price tag attached.
Exactly. Yeah.
They want a reprint of something, or they want a variation of something, or they need an edit on something. What's very common in my world is one of my clients will change websites or website designs or website hosts or designers, and they choose a different format for their pictures. Okay, I'm prepared for that. There's things that I do at point of capture that help me be able to deal with that going down the road. And part of that is shooting a little wider than I'd like to, so that I can format that picture as a square or as a horizontal or as a vertical.
What's the rule? There's a rule about all this. You know, when you're capturing picture, you literally have no idea what you're gonna. And if you're doing a conceptual shoot at all, or even if you're not, even if you're doing like a wedding, let's do that because I know that well. And you're shooting that wedding, what's the deal? You shoot tight, you shoot vertical, you shoot horizontal, you pull back, you shoot horizontal, you shoot vertical. That's just, you just do that. And sometimes it behooves you to move the subject left, move the subject right, back and wide. And then you move the subject left and or up or down, narrow and tight. You just, listen, you don't have film anymore. That's what we have.
Burn those pixels.
That's what we have these little cards for. And what Bob's alluding to, I go back all the time and wish I had, oh man, I forgot to pull back on that one. Or man, I wish I could get in there closer.
That's kind of huge.
And that's the beauty of the newer cameras and that 45 megapixels is you can, you know, now there's nothing to substitute for.
And you can simplify this, folks.
Yeah.
You know, when you put it all into words like that, it sounds a little overwhelming. So if you're working a zoom lens, you shoot wide, shoot mid, shoot tight.
Yep.
And you've got it covered. And then I like what you add, and sometimes we do this with our headshot sessions. Sometimes I'm going to move subject left, not centered, so that we can use
negative space
for ad copy.
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
That's a big deal, right?
Magazine covers. How many of you got?
I've shot so many magazine covers.
And how many of you people have gone out there and got just a killer image, and there's no room for copy, right? Zero. I mean, like no room.
There's no room.
Yeah.
For the marquee.
Yeah.
If you shoot magazine covers, you're shooting for 8.5 by 11.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not 8 by 10.
And that doesn't compute into our photo formats, right? And then you have to shoot for the title of the magazine so that their logo is not coming down over somebody's nose.
Yeah, or their.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, we're getting off the base here.
Totally. But you know what? It's all really good, and that's part of what.
But it all goes back to storage, right? So now you've got these files that you have to, that are your assets, just like Bob said. That's your inventory. And what we're talking about here is shooting here for inventory. So you have stuff to sell to the magazine, you have stuff to sell to the client, you have stuff to put on the calendar, and it's all the same shot.
So I'm going to just take that moment and say a quick aside to that, because you just nailed something that is part of the technique in shooting this stuff. If I'm shooting for a magazine, the magazine has told me what they want.
Pretty much.
Okay, but I'm dead in the water if I shoot for the magazine and I've sold that. End of sales. Why do that? I'm going to shoot what I've been consigned to do, and then I'm going to shoot what I want to shoot for the client.
Yep.
So that yes, I'm here for the magazine, but by the way, I shot all these extra pictures of.
And if you're a PPA member, you might want to shoot for competition.
Sure.
So that's a whole nother scenario.
Nother deal.
So anyway, it all goes back to storage, because now what are you going to do with all that? I just talked you into shooting about 8 to 10 times what you normally shoot on a single image, right?
And you have to be able to.
Yeah.
You said inventory, and in my brain just flipped out, because that is my product.
Yeah.
So that inventory has to be stored somewhere. If I sell a physical good, I have to warehouse it.
Right.
My physical storage, I use something called network attached storage, or a NAS. Okay? They also make.
Don't be afraid of these terms now. This is.
They need to hear this.
Yeah, I know. I talk to people all the time, and they're going, "Oh God, a NAS,"
Yeah.
It's just.
Except me, I got
it's a
excited,
whole
right?
bunch of these in an enclosure, so don't worry about that.
That has its own brain.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly.
So there's desktop attached storage, which is a whole bunch of these in something that's attached to your computer through some kind of a cable. I would consider that different than desktop attached storage, but I guess it would be.
It would be.
Because it's just a portable drive.
Right.
That's intended to attach to your computer.
Right.
So that is desktop attached storage.
Okay.
But my network attached storage is available to all of my computers on my home network, regardless of what computer is on. So I don't have to have a server sitting there spinning all the time. It just sits by itself. It's connected to my router with an Ethernet,
which is usually people's Wi-Fi access point.
It's your modem, basically. It's a modem router.
Usually can be different, but normally, yeah.
Connected with an Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
It's fast as heck. I just invested in this system this year because my desktop attached storage failed on me. I've been running a certain model of desktop attached storage for the last 7 years. I've worked through a couple of those units, and it failed on me. Catastrophic failure.
So those of you that are out there are going, well, crap. We had 3 copies. One was on a card, one's on the computer, and one's on this storage thing that he has. And he just said it failed catastrophically, which means you're not getting it back.
It means smoke out of the back, okay?
Ain't happening.
So
just a side note too. A lot of people that have these drives, we're going to go right back to that, but a lot of people have these drives.
Maybe.
And the drive, listen, folks, it's not if, it's when. These will quit.
Even SSDs.
Yeah, even SSDs.
People are like, oh, it's SSDs, there's nothing spinning.
This will quit. Your NAS will quit. It's not if, it's when. Remember that. Anyway, if you have one of these and it fails catastrophically, and help me, where's my stuff? If you go to a drive recovery service, you're going to pay a lot of money. And by a lot, I mean probably $1,000 or more. The success rate of getting those images or the data off of that is like 2%.
Super slim.
It's really, really slim. That's why we're talking about this. I would much rather you spend $600-700 on a NAS today and have a course of recovery rather than have it on one of these and have that puke on you.
So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yep.
Because there's 2 or 3 different elements of that I really want to hit. First of all, if you are a low volume photographer, you can buy a desktop or network attached storage for a couple $100 that has 2 drives in it.
Right.
And they just mirror each other.
Right.
And if one of them goes bad, you just replace it.
Yep.
And it heals itself and you've lost no data. Mine is a 6-bay. I have 6 drives in mine. Maybe I have 5.
No, you have 6, but it sees 5 because you're RAID 5. Don't worry about RAID.
RAID is just a box with a whole bunch of drives in it.
That stands for Redundant Array of Independent Disks. That's what it's RAID. What it means is, and when you got it, I could go into this at depth, but I'm not going to. He has 6 bays. The brain in there only sees 5. That's because one of those is
The redundancy.
The redundant part, yeah.
It actually...
It does an array, and then if one drive fails, it'll automatically pick up that other drive, and you'll get a notification that you have a bad drive.
So that's... Yeah.
But it won't stop you. Everything's going to keep on right on going. But you need to go out, get another drive, and put...
So I'm going to tell my story.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So my Drobo failed. This was my second Drobo failure. That had 4 drives in it, and the Drobo machine has its own very special formatting of the drives, and when my machine failed, I was unable to access any of my data. The good news is that I use a service that in the background watches my drive and backs up anything that comes to the drive. I don't do anything for my backup. It just is there.
Except for you pay for it.
I do pay for it.
Yeah.
It's a service called Backblaze, and it is crazy affordable to back up one computer's systems on the regular. And it does it. It's transparent to me. I get a report monthly that tells me what it's doing for me. I'm like, yep, cool, it's there, right? And so anyway, that service is Backblaze, and I'm going to talk about this drive here for a minute. When my Drobo failed, I lost terabytes of data. They compressed it, put it onto this 8 terabyte drive, and shipped me the drive. Now, I paid $180 for them to do that, but it's refundable if you send the drive back. I didn't. I decided to keep the drive that has all of my data on it already.
It's another good backup.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is a backup in a box, right? So these types of drives, they're a desktop attached storage, like Larry said. You can buy these at Costco. They're super cheap, $100, $140.
Yeah.
But that's not the end, okay?
Yeah.
Because this is it's a single point, right? So my network attached storage replaced my desktop attached storage. I went from the desktop connected machine when I had to replace the Drobo. By the way, Drobo's gone. They're out of business. They failed during the pandemic.
Yep.
So I couldn't even get my data. So I got my data sent to me. I had it. They overnighted it to me. Like, boom, there's your data. Okay, great. It is if you've lost data, going to bed that night, you're not going to think about anything else.
Yeah,
you're going to dream about all of the people that you can't serve, about all of the data that you've lost, about all of those very special things that were on there.
And I've never had my house broken into and robbed, but I have. I've known several people that have, and they always say you can't remember what was in your house until you look for it.
Until you look for it.
And then you look for it and you went, oh yeah, that was in that container that got ripped off. You know. Same thing's going to happen to you with your NAS. I mean, I've got pictures all the way back from 1994. I mean, so you're going to, I got that. And you go, oh, no, that was on that.
That was on that.
Yeah. So
one of the photographers that contacted me said, I have a handful of these little MyBook type things that I've been using, but they're all full, and then they don't talk to each other, or they don't work when the other ones are on. Look, he says, Ugh, I wish I would have this episode before I bought the backup drive that I did. Actually, be glad that you have the backup drive that you did.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to talk to you about Backblaze, backing that to back. And there are other services. Backblaze has been absolutely freaking flawless for me.
None of this stuff, I think, and a lot of people get really, really overwhelmed about the cost and can I set it up and is it? None of this stuff is really. I wouldn't call it, to use the term rocket science. I use Synology. What do you have now?
I have Synology, 15, 20 plus.
I use Synology, and I have 2 4-drive units. That's what I use. And each of my units have 4 terabyte drives in them. So I've got 12 terabytes in each drive bay thing I've got.
Yeah.
Synology is probably one of the. Well, they're all easy now. You plug it in basically, and to start out with, you kind of have to have it direct connected to your computer because that's how you get all the information into it. Like what's your router
to set it up.
or your router, your Wi-Fi, your IP out, all that stuff. It's not hard. If you need help, call me. I can help you out. But anyway,
that's what Sky did. She used the phone a friend option.
Yeah.
And guess what? She's the one that had multiple of these cheap drives sitting around, and her new computer wouldn't even see them, wouldn't detect a couple of them. It was just a nightmare. And she went with a really nice Synology NAS, and she's like, "This is so over my head." I'm like, "Look,
they'll do the thing about these enclosures we're talking about. Drobo is the same way, but they'll do a ton of stuff. But just to set them up just for a RAID array is fairly simple. Can they do other stuff? Absolutely. You can VPN into them. You can have them do your mail server, your web server, all kinds of crap. But you don't want to. Don't.
We dump our cell phone pictures to
Yeah, I was going to tell.
We dump our cell phone pictures to our NAS.
Yeah, actually, when I was using Lightroom, I imported my pictures into Lightroom, which cataloged them, and gave me the year, all the metadata, all that stuff.
Makes them searchable.
Yeah, so boom, and that just goes to my NAS, and you probably aren't as surprised. I'm surprised how many pictures I take with this stupid thing. It's just
all the time.
It's
I'm
crazy.
sitting in a conference and somebody puts a slide up. I'm like, "Oh, I need that information." I might not need it, but I do all the time.
Real fast, if you have, so now we've got a NAS, 4-bay, 2-bay even. They sell 2-bay NASs. Those things they're not expensive. And what we're trying to get you to do here,
relatively speaking.
Yeah. And what we're trying to get you to do here, a 4-bay NAS empty, a Synology 4-bay NAS empty is about $500, maybe $550. Drives for that NAS are going to be all over the board. You want 2 terabyte drives, you want 4 terabyte drives, you want 8 terabyte drives, what do you want? So that's where the cost comes in. And you could probably go, I'm thinking on a drive like that, probably go up to about $800, $700 when you fill it up, But
you don't need to. You can start with a 2.
Yeah, exactly. So the beauty of this whole thing is you could start with 2 drives in there if you want to, and then you could you can throw another drive in there and throw another drive.
So I have a 1520 Plus. It's a 5-bay. It has 2 of the NVMe slots to work as buffers.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a terabyte in each one of those of the SSD card thing, but that unit can take a 4-bay extension.
Right.
So I can have 9. It's one of the reasons I chose that unit.
And most of them can also take a regular old USB drive and just plug it in the back of the thing, so you have even more capability.
So one of the things that my 1520 will do is, and I'm going to with this, is it will make. This sounds crazy, but I'm going to have this back up my network attached storage automatically through the operating system on the NAS. A local copy, a local backup. So let me back up a little bit. I use my NAS as my working drive.
How do you do that with Lightroom?
Point to it.
They must have changed that because they didn't used to let you do it. So
I can't share that Lightroom catalog, but you just assign it. You mount it as a drive.
Yeah, there's a
lot.
There's some tech to this,
but it doesn't have to be wacky confusing.
The big deal here is make sure you have, even if you just get this, you got to have something other than your card and other than your computer to get those images off of, and then the other main point is to make sure you're dragging your pictures off your cards with a reader. And lastly, if you're going to format your cards, do it with the camera and not your computer. So, and all of this stuff. There's 8 billion YouTube videos on all of this.
Yeah,
and how
I actually watched a lot of YouTube videos before I bought my NAS because I knew what I wanted to do with it. My application is probably more advanced than your application. I'm running a network storage so that from my studio in my garage, I literally export my Lightroom catalog that I just shot. I export each job as a catalog to my NAS. And then when I go up to the office, I import that from that part of the NAS into a different part of the NAS, and then that whole thing is back-to-back Blaze.
So, again, you can carry this as far as you want to carry it, but you cannot. The main point of the show is you just can't rely on just the card or just a spinny thing.
We're gonna come in again.
Sure.
You must.
You must.
Back up your computer. You must have a plan that's not accidental. It needs to be intentional to manage your data and keep it safe so that you have it forever. Mike Collins says shivers if you don't back up. Ooh.
So that, yeah, exactly.
Terrifying, right?
The other thing I want to kind of touch on is if you're worried about keeping up with the Joneses on rate arrays, like everybody's got to have a what's the new iPhone, the 13 or 20? What is it? I don't know.
It's a 13.
Yeah, I have to have an iPhone. I got to have the newest, the latest. Great. Listen, I've done Synology for years, and the OS that's in there is the same OS that's been around for
It's
years.
fantastic.
The only thing they change on them is the speed of them. They put faster chips in, they put more memory in it, yada yada. It's just like a computer.
The
But
coolest thing-
you don't have to go out and buy a new one every other year.
Yeah, so I plan to use the Synology NAS for years to come.
Yep.
It is a commercial grade product, which is probably a lot more than some people need, but it really meets my needs today, but I know it'll meet my needs 2 years, 5 years from now as well, because it's that kind of an expandable system. It's a commercial grade piece of equipment.
Don't forget your UPS when you do this too. Uninterrupted power supply.
Yeah.
Get yourself an APC
Mine
battery
is
backup.
out of the system right now because I need to put a new battery in it.
Yeah. So
But-
just remember, even your computer, your TV, everything. I have
A good surge protector
is invaluable.
is really necessary. All right, did you realize what time it is?
No,
It is 9 minutes to
Let me
noon.
tell you a quick story about surge protectors.
Do it.
Okay.
Oh, I can tell you one too.
My sister computer failed, couldn't figure it out. You know, they've had surge protectors and all their stuff. I went all the way up to Lewiston, and it was toast. I mean, it got the motherboard, everything.
Oh.
So new computer, whatever. And I got to looking, and the only thing that wasn't on the surge protector was her modem.
Oh,
and
yeah.
guess what? Lightning came through, or some power surge came through, and I think it had to be lightning. It came through the modem, through the wire to their computer, and got the motherboard. And that was the reason why they had to spend money on it. So listen, power surge or surge protectors.
protector.
Yep. I'm done.
So 100 years ago, when I was deployed for Desert Storm, it was 91. So 30 years ago.
Jeez.
30 years ago, I had my personal computer on board in my ship in a specific office. I actually ran a ham radio station on the ship for my shipmates to be able to make phone calls stateside through other ham radio operators. I love you, Mom. Over. It was just really like that, right? But I was using my personal computer to run this thing. It was a 386. Woohoo,
Ooh, baby.
Right?
GX?
I don't remember. Yes, it would have been because I don't remember anything's small, right? So on the ship, you're dealing, you make your own power. Like the ship has its own power plant, right? There's not some big cord connected to it.
That's those big engines.
And
yeah.
it was more frequent to have brownouts than blackouts. And when your fluorescent lights dim and go, you're like diving for the computer, and it smoked my.
Oh, really?
It smoked my computer. I was deployed. I like dee. I literally did send a ham radio message off to my buddy in LA, and he sent me.
Did you ever get your
motherboard?
Did you ever get your license?
No, I was what they call Mars Chief back then.
WN7JEN. That was me.
NN0 Charlie Oscar Hotel.
Yeah. Cool.
You could actually look up NNN0 COH, and it will tell you that was the call sign for the USS Cape Cod, and she's been decommissioned now. But anyway, we digress.
Think they sunk
You're
it.
a ham?
Yeah. WN7JEN. Yeah.
Do you ham anymore?
No.
We should.
You know,
That would
I've
add
actually-
a new
I've
level
actually-
of fun to our travels.
I have actually looked at buying the old equipment I used to have, tube stuff.
Yep.
And set it back up again. I'd love to.
We're
do
done,
that.
really.
Yeah,
We're
done.
finishing.
Yeah. We're chatting now.
All right, so let me jump in here real quick. We
Yeah,
have a
let's-
thing later. Gonna do. I mean, make sure that's off. Boom.
Do the,
That's not what I wanted.
do the third one over.
I'm trying to.
Fourth one over there. No.
What? No, I'm gonna
Oh, yeah,
do that
we-
one. We gotta finish so we can go eat.
Yeah.
Are you coming?
No, I can't. I
saw that.
have a call at 12:30. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to be there eating pizza with my wife over at Idaho Pizza Company on Fairview in Meridian, and we're going to be there at 1 o'clock. I'll be there a little bit sooner than that because I'm hungry. And
ppofidaho.com.
Yep, let me get that up and just hit the transition button.
All right.
Boom, there it goes.
Join us button, $9.99 a month, or a low price of $99 a year. Listen, invoices are going out. I know this is a horrible time to send invoices out, but please get your dues in when you can. We'll look forward to continuing with you. Again, $99 a year, or $9.99 a month.
Join us.
Join us
See you at lunch.
next week.